إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. I want to begin my khutbah today by posing a question. A question that I want all of us to think about. A simple question. What is the one thing that everybody agrees on? The one concept, the one thing that everyone knows is going to happen for sure. It doesn't matter if you're black or white. It doesn't matter if you're male or female, young or old. It doesn't matter if you're a Muslim or a Christian or a Jew or an atheist. There's one thing that's certain across all boards, everybody believes in, and what is that? That is the fact that everybody will die. That is one thing that everybody agrees on. It's a bit paradoxical actually, because when you think of it, the one certain thing in life is actually death. And so us as Muslims, we know what we're working for. We know that there's a greater purpose. We know that there's a hereafter that we're striving for. Our goal is to make Allah happy. Our goal is to build for the future. Our goal is to be with the beloved Prophet, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in Jannah. To be companions with Abu Bakr and Umar and Ali and Uthman. To meet Khadija and Aisha radiyallahu anhum. But how is it that we achieve that? Well, the most important part is we have to hold on to our faith first and foremost. And then we also have to follow in these people's footsteps. The Prophet ﷺ, he tells us this issue of holding on to your faith will become tougher. As times move on, it will become tougher and tougher. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, "Bada al-Islamu ghariban." Islam started as something that's different. Something that people thought is weird. وَسَيَعُودُ كَمَا بَدَأَ غَرِيبًا. And it will return at one point to be that same weird thing that people are thinking of it. The same different. I like using the word different rather than weird. فَطُوبَى لِلْغُرَبَاءِ. So glad tidings to those who hold on to their faith. Those will be the successful people. And subhanAllah, if we take the time and we really reflect over this, we realize that it's very applicable in our time, in our day and age today. It's become very tough for people to hold on to their religion. I was looking at statistics on atheism and agnosticism. And one really interesting fact was that over the past 10 years, that number has doubled in the United States alone. 9% of the population is atheist or agnostic. And to put that in perspective, we have 330 million people in the US, approximately, which gives us 28 million. That's pretty much the population of Oklahoma, times 9. 28 million people. Did you know that 28 million people is more than the population of 140 countries? And this is the number that's just present in the US alone. We're not even speaking about the other countries. 28 million people. Let that sink in. And aside from that, even those of us who are Muslim, many of us have doubts. Many of us are facing doubts, are doubting certain parts of Islam. So the purpose of this khutbah, brothers and sisters, is so we can understand how we fall into this trap. How do people lose their faith? It doesn't just happen overnight. So how is someone a Muslim and then becomes a non-Muslim? How does someone lose his faith? And to explain this, I want to talk about a specific set of verses from Surah Al-Hadid, in the middle of it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala paints this picture of the Day of Judgment. Typically when Allah paints a picture of the Day of Judgment, He compares the believing men and women to the disbelievers. But in this specific scenario, He actually compares the believers to the hypocrites. To the people who thought they had faith. To the people who at one point actually did have faith, but they ended up losing their faith. So how is that possible? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, يَوْمَ تَرَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ يَسْعَى نُورُهُمْ بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَبِأَيْمَانِهِمْ. On that day of judgment, when there is complete darkness, when a person can't see next to him, Allah will provide the believers, the believing men and women, with a light that is emitted from their chest and from their right hand. بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَبِأَيْمَانِهِمْ. And what that signifies is the light that's coming out of your chest is the light of your belief. The stronger your belief, the more love you have towards Allah, the bigger your light will be. And the light coming from your right hand refers to your actions, because we know believers will receive their book of deeds in their right hands. The more good actions you do, the more prayer, the more smiling at your brother and sister that you do, the brighter your light will be. And Ibn Kathir, he mentions that people will have a different degree of light. So one Muslim might have a light that's as big as a mountain, which means he can see everything in front of him. On a day of darkness, he can see exactly where he's going. He can see where that bridge is to get to Jannah. Another Muslim will only have a light that's as far ahead as his shadow. So he'll get to Jannah, but he'll just be a little bit slower. And the weakest of these lights is a light that's emitted from a thumb. And it's not even a constant light. It's a light that's just flickering on and off. So that person can walk a little bit, but then he has to stop because he can't see. Until that light comes back on. Then he can continue his journey. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells these people, بُشْرَاكُمُ الْيَوْمَ جَنَّاتٌ تَجْرِي مِنْ تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ. Glad tidings to you. Even if your light is small, at least you made it to Jannah. At least you know your destiny is going to be something good. Because in the next verse, Allah describes a group of people with a much different reality. A group of people who initially also had light. But as soon as they took a step forward, Allah took that light away from them. And now they're in complete darkness. They're panicking because they can't see anything in front of them. How are we going to get to our destination without any light? And so they're searching for ways to get across the bridge, but they can't see anything. And finally, in the distance, they see what appears to be a group of people with lights. So they run up to them and they say, "Unzuruna naqtabis min nurikum." Wait for us. Let us borrow some of your light. You have so much light, let us just borrow some. But on that day, the mu'minun, they will reply and say, "Irji'u wara'akum faltamisu nura." We don't have time for you. We want to make sure we're getting to Jannah first. You guys can go back behind you, look for your own light. We don't have time for you. Our destiny is over here. We're trying to get to Jannah. And so these people who lost their faith, they realize that these Muslims aren't going to give us, these mu'mins aren't going to give us any light. So they start running faster and faster so they can catch up to them, so maybe at least they can see by using their light. And at that moment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a big wall will drop between them. فَضُرِبَ بَيْنَهُمْ بِسُورٍ لَهُ بَابٍ. will be a giant wall with a door that only opens from one side. On the inside of that wall will be Jannah, will be mercy. باطنه فيه الرحمة وظاهره من قبله العذاب. And on the other side will be the punishment, will be the hellfire. So the munafiqun now are thinking, plan A didn't work. We weren't able to borrow some of that light. Plan B didn't work either. We can't even get close to these mu'mins now because there's a wall between us. How are we going to get there? And so now, if you can imagine this scenario with me, there's a wall and the punishment is coming from behind them. The hellfire is coming from behind them. And for the kids here, you'll be able to relate to this. You know those cartoons where someone walks in through a door and there's two walls that are being pressed against each other. And that person will be crushed unless he finds a solution. This is exactly what's happening on that day. There's a wall and the fire is coming and approaching and approaching and approaching. So finally, the munafiqun, they're thinking to themselves, we only have one thing that we can do now. There's only one last solution. So they yell across the wall, أَلَمْ نَكُمْ مَعَكُمْ. And this is the purpose of the khutbah. أَلَمْ نَكُمْ مَعَكُمْ. Were we not with you? Did we not used to pray with you? We used to hang out with you. You know, we went to the University of Oklahoma together. We went to Peace Academy together. We prayed at Masjid al-Salam together. What happened? And now, since there's a wall, the mu'minun are confident. They're chilling. You know, they're saying, now we're safe. Now we're in Jannah. Now we can reply to you. Now we're not scared that the punishment will get us. So now they have time to respond to these people. And they say, Bala, you were with us. وَلَكِنَّكُمْ فَتَنْتُمْ أَنفُسَكُمْ. The first thing you did was you placed yourselves in hardship. You placed yourselves in an environment that will lead you to problems. And you kept on telling yourself, I won't fall for this. This isn't me. Yeah, maybe he'll fall for it, but I'm stronger than that. How would I fall for it? How am I going to end up drinking? How am I going to end up smoking? That's not for me. I'm too strong for this. You kept putting yourself in situations of danger, situations of testing yourself. And you kept saying, this won't be me. And you know, initially that's true. Initially, when you're hanging out with a group of friends and someone backbites, it tastes bad in your mouth. You tell them, you know what? You gotta chill. You gotta relax. When someone's drinking, you tell them, listen, you can't do this anymore. But the more you expose yourself to that scenario, the more you expose yourself to that environment, the more that it becomes normalized to you. And subhanAllah, I have a really silly example, but I think it gets the point across. My mom, mashallah, she's been cooking for us for years and years. She's a professional cook now, mashallah. May Allah grant our mothers Jannah and forgive them. So her hands now aren't sensitive to any heat. So one day she tells me, can you go pick up the pan from the oven? It's not hot. I'm like, okay, let me go check it out. So I go to the oven's on, and I kind of just touch it to make sure it's not hot, and of course it's burning hot. So I go, I put on gloves. I put on a second pair of gloves just for good measure. And I pick up the pan from the oven, and it's still hot. So I immediately put it on the stovetop. And my mom just looks at me like, man, what are you doing? And she comes to me, she sees me struggling, she comes to me without any gloves, without any hesitation. She carries the pan and she puts it on the table. And I'm just thinking, like, what are you doing? How can you not feel it? But this is the point. The point is she's been so used to it. She's been so used to dealing with things that are hot that now she doesn't feel that pain. And although this is a good example, what I'm saying is a bad thing. When we're talking about this ayah, it's a bad thing. When you put yourself in these environments, you become desensitized to that environment. That becomes normal to you. So that was the first thing. لَكِنَّكُمْ فَتَنْتُمْ أَنفُسَكُمْ. The second problem, وَتَرَبَّصْتُمْ. You kept procrastinating. You kept telling yourself, you know what, I'll do tawbah tomorrow. I'll ask for forgiveness tomorrow. I'll hang out with these people just for this week. You know, next semester I'll change my friends. Right now I'm just trying to help them and get by. We live together. I can't just move out. You keep procrastinating. And one very relevant example is starting a diet or going to the gym. We always say, you know, I'm going to start when? It's never today. It's always tomorrow. You know, I have a test today. I'll start going to the gym in 3 days. Just so, you know, I'm ready and I have energy and stuff. I'm going to start my diet after my parents leave. Right now I have to feed them well. And then we know when December 31st comes and people start having their New Year's resolution, this time instead of trying to lose 20 pounds, you're trying to lose 40 pounds. Because you've gone so deep into that. You've lost yourself. وَتَرَبَّصْتُمْ. You told yourself, I just want to have a little bit more fun. I just want to enjoy this a little bit more. And by saying this, you're saying two things. The first is that you're assuming that you're going to be alive tomorrow. But not a single one of us here can even say that we're going to live for the next minute, for the next hour. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا تَدْرِي نَفْسٌ مَاذَا تَكْسِبُ غَدًا وَمَا تَدْرِي نَفْسٌ بِأَيِّ أَرْضٍ تَمُوتُ. Nobody knows what they're going to earn tomorrow. Nobody knows where they're going to die. And the second thing you're assuming is that you're going to be able to hit that break at any time. But you and I both know that the deeper you stay, the longer you stay, the more entrenched it becomes, and the tougher it is to get out of it. And now when this happens, a guilt sets in. Man, I messed up. I shouldn't have been there for so long. How did I allow myself to get so far into this? What happened? And nobody likes to feel guilty. And so at that moment, shaitan comes to you and tells you, you know, it's not even your fault. This is Islam's fault. Islam doesn't want to make you happy. Islam is what's telling you this is haram, that's haram. Why are you even Muslim? And so these thoughts begin running in your head. And you ask yourself, why am I Muslim? Is the Quran even authentic? Is there even a God? What about this whole hadith business? Where did that come from? And so these thoughts begin running in your mind. And it gets so deep to the point that you stop caring about two things. You stop caring about pleasing Allah because you doubt that He's even there anymore. And you stop caring about the hellfire because who knows if that's real or not. And when you lose these two things, all you're left with, all you care about now, is this world, is this dunya, being happy. It'll be chasing after the fame, chasing after the money, chasing after the leisure, chasing after the happiness. And that's why the next thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, He says, وَغَرَّتْكُمُ الْأَمَانِي. This world deceived you. You thought that you were going to get happiness by living for this world, by collecting more money. You thought that that would fill that void in your heart. And that's why we see so many people, their only care and concern is about worldly things. When are we going to see the new Sonic movie? What's our new vacation spot? Where are we going to eat today? What are we going to eat today? You know, as the saying goes, some people live to eat. Others eat to live. Which one of these people are we? How does our life have any purpose? And so what comes after that is حَتَّى جَاءَ أَمْرُ اللَّهِ. You keep deceiving yourself, telling yourself that this dunya will fill in that void until Allah's will comes to you, until death comes to you. وَغَرَّكُمْ بِاللَّهِ الْغَرُورُ. And at that moment, Shaitan was successful in deceiving you. He managed to pull you through, little by little, bit by bit. You fell into his trap. And so this is a summary of a person's life who lost their faith. Brothers and sisters, it doesn't start with something major. It just starts with putting yourself in the wrong environment. It starts by hanging out with the wrong people. And then you start delaying change until you have doubts. And then it's too late for you to come back at that point. And subhanAllah, this ayah is actually a gift from Allah. Because it alerts us to what's happening on the Day of Judgment. Because right now we can change. If we're aware of how people fall and lose their faith, we can do something about it right now. You can advise your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad, your family, your friends. You can do something about it right now. I'd rather find about this now than be on the Day of Judgment on the wrong side of the wall thinking, why am I here? How did I get stuck here? Where did my light go? So what we need to do is actually assess where we are on that spectrum. Maybe we're from the people who just started to hang out in the wrong environments. Or maybe we're from the people who keep on delaying repentance. Or maybe we've gone further than that. And now we're starting to develop doubts about Islam, about Quran, about Hadith, about everything. Or maybe now we've reached a point to where we don't even care about that stuff. And our only focus and concern is actually this world. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَالْيَوْمَ لَا يُؤْخَذُ مِنْكُمْ فِدْيَةٌ وَلَا مِنَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. So today, no ransom will be taken from you. Talking to the people who lost their faith on the wrong side of the wall. You can't pay your way out of it today. Maybe you were able to pay your way out of it in this world. You had some kind of punishment. You wanted some kind of position. And you were able to pay for it. But today, don't even try about it. Don't even think about it. وَلَا مِنَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مَأْوَاكُمُ النَّارُ هِيَ مَوْلَاكُمْ وَبِئْسَ الْمَصِيرُ. So now he's comparing these people who lost their faith with the people who were never even believers. Now they are in the same rank. And all of them will go to hell. مَأْوَاكُمُ النَّارُ هِيَ مَوْلَاكُمْ. The nar will be your caretaker. The fire will take care of you. The fire will be hugging you. Can you imagine that? I ask Allah to protect us all. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي خلق الكون فنظمه وخلق الإنسان وكرمه وأنزل الكتاب وأحكمه وحفظ إبراهيم من النار وسلمه ونادى موسى وكلمه ووهب لسليمان ملكا وفهمه وأرسل محمدا بالحق وعلمه وأصلي وأسلم وأبارك على حبيبنا ونبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. And so after painting this scenario that occurs on the Day of Judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the key. He gives us the solution of maintaining our light, of keeping our faith, of strengthening that light. He says, أَلَمْ يَأْنِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَمَا نَزَلَ مِنَ الْحَقِّ. Is it not time for the believing men and women to start reflecting over the remembrance of Allah and over the Quran? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose a very special word. He said, أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ. Khushu'. What does that mean? It doesn't mean just repeating subhanallah, 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 alhamdulillah. No, it means feeling it, understanding it. When you're saying subhanallah, you're reflecting over His blessings. You're reflecting over His creation. You're looking at the stars and you're saying subhanallah. The deep blue oceans, the animals around us. That's when you really connect with it. When you say alhamdulillah, you're thinking of all the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. Our eyesight. The fact that we're able to walk. The fact that we have parents who care for us. Can you imagine if our parents, if our mother gave birth to us and then just let us live our life? We all wouldn't be here. But this is from the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He gave us this blessing. That He gave us all these blessings. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, reflect over my remembrance. Reflect over the Quran. This will be the key. This will be your light on the day of judgment. Brothers and sisters, this light that we have right now, it's not guaranteed. As I said before, 28 million people have fallen into atheism and agnosticism. We can't keep saying this won't be us. We have to take practical steps. Because right now we can change, but on the day of judgment, we won't be able to do anything. Will we be on the side that is of the Jannah, or will we be on the opposite side? Which side do we want to choose to be on? I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to shroud us in His mercy, to make us among the muttaqeen. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار اللهم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك ربنا إننا آمنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وقنا عذاب النار عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم واشكروه يزدكم وأقم الصلاة